All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Avella Spiritu, and I'm going to be your facilitator today. And welcome to Lean-YEG, or Lean Edmonton. Now, Lean-YEG is a lean community of practice here in Edmonton, and we're connected with the Lean Construction Institute of Canada. And we're part of the other community of practice, or the COPs, around the province, Western Canada, and throughout our great country. And basically, we're a group of volunteers who try to promote lean practices and philosophies within the construction industry, but also with other industries as well too, because you never know where you're going to have those great ideas. But our focus is the construction industry. We meet every third Friday of the month, and we operate September through June. And this year we're running a series of presentations versus our traditional lean coffee question and answer format, because with COVID, it's hard to get people in together to gather around the table. So to practice social distancing, we're doing this virtually. Now, our main base of operations is the Edmonton Construction Association. So again, a quick shout out to kind of like our sponsor. The ECA is a really good opportunity there to network with other like-minded individuals within the construction industry. And on top of all that, if you didn't know, they have really cheap printing. So if you need any type of printing done or posters made up, whatever you have to go see David down there. Tell him Avel sent you. Right, and he's got free candy down there too. He loves it. He says it's pretty dead over there right now, so he would appreciate if someone kind of stuck their head in there and said hi. So without further ado, I'll roll into our presentation. So, you know, out of all the different things that we've done, I'm really looking forward to this one, because when I first met Zana, she was the HR manager for this huge multidisciplinary engineering firm, where they use Lean to improve their processes and their people. And HR took a very champion role in the promotion of Lean practices there. And she was, and along with the people around her, was very key to the successes that their team realized. And I remember Zana talking about how Lean would help bring the sparkle back to their team after they had this big rapid growth in their culture. And it always kind of stuck with me, right? And I was even busting out her old A3. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is, right? And so one of the really cool things that doesn't get talked about is Lean and HR and how they have this really cool synergistic relationship there. And so I was really happy that Zana was said, you know what, I can talk about that for a couple of minutes. And here she is. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Zana, and she's going to present her topic to you. Welcome to the Lean Community of Practice, and thank you, Zana, for speaking today.
You're so welcome. So everybody can hear me? Okay? Yeah, all good? Perfect. You know what, Avel, I want to thank you as well, because I think with the Lean transformation that we experienced at that organization, you were an integral mentor for me and team members alike. And I still feel that way. So even putting this lovely presentation together, I laugh because he says, yeah, I can talk for a couple minutes. But then he sends me the agenda and he says it's 40. I was like, holy moly. I could certainly fill 40 minutes. Those of you who know me know that I can have the gift of gab, but definitely thank you. It's an honor to be able to speak about this. I'm super passionate about the topic, and Lean has truly changed the way I look at work and my own work. I now have this lens where obviously I just see waste everywhere. And I think we were very lucky to be able to experience that in a corporate group amongst, your typical lean manufacturing construction type of background. It very much fit in a corporate way, and I'm so happy to talk about that and how our experiences shaped that transformation. It's throughout my career, I've been in human resources for the last 14 years. I was a McEwen grad back in 2008. And I have worked in construction, oil and gas, engineering. So I have quite a breadth of different backgrounds that I've been blessed to be experienced with. And it's truly my goal to always understand an organization's priorities and operations. I make it my mandate to get to know as many wonderful faces in an organization as possible, because one of my biggest passions is truly just seeing people succeed. And I think what created the sparkle, if you will, at that organization was the fact that you could truly see people blooming, and that was sparkle to me. That made all the difference, because when somebody had just a tiny seed planted in their mind and they were able to grow within that, it was very, very rewarding as a team to grow together and see the different types of autonomy and just having more pride in their workmanship and in their knowledge and confidence. So as an HR professional, those experiences have certainly shaped how I view work. Likewise, I am a mother of 2 beautiful boys, and over the last 2.5 years, I have been able to essentially work from home part-time, but I am able to fit in a very large amount of work in very short periods of time because of my ability to just cut out waste in my work. And because of that, Lean has been such a gift, not only in my work life, but in my personal life and how I'm able to manage that and be at home with my 2 kids full time, as well as be able to be a career woman, which has always been very important to me and since I've graduated college. Lean has also, allowed me to see people at work just contribute to new ideas, collaborate, support one another. And when you see those seeds planted from a leadership level as well, and there's that give and take motion between all staff, it really shows you that Lean, it's about the people. So when we talk about the synergies between Lean and human resources, our main mandate, it's about the people. So again, I'm super excited. Let's dig in. So I'm just going to share my screen here so I have a bit of presentation. Oops. Sorry, guys. Everyone sees the presentation okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Looks great,
Okay.
Zana.
Perfect. All right. So I thought it was best to just break it out in a bunch of topics that felt very meaningful to the synergies of Lean and HR. And this is what we came up with. So we're going to be covering partnering with HR in a Lean transformation and what that means. I want to talk a little bit about, your traditional role of HR and how equipping them at the beginning in a Lean transformation is super important to the process. I want to talk a little bit about, the old adage of live to work versus work to live. There's a few buzzwords in the industry right now that I'm going to cover around that. And obviously, I'm going to talk about nourishing company culture and a little bit of the sparkle. We're going to talk about the pulse of engagement and the importance of data collection and data-driven decisions in an organization, and how that ties in from an HR strategy standpoint, as well as how it ties into Lean. And last but not least, but very important, people, productivity, and profit. So I'm sure you've heard of the 3 Ps before. I want to take a quick little dive into that and drive a couple points home. So let's get into it. So again, HR and Lean, it's truly about the people. You know, we have your typical, as you know, Lean management systems. Lean is a management system that relies on team-based collaboration, problem-solving methodology. The target condition equals everybody, every day, coming together and asking 3 simple questions. And I'm sure if you've been through a Lean transformation before, you probably get asked this on a regular basis. And that's, how did we do yesterday? Where was the waste? And how can we do it better today? When we commit to this, sorry, Avel, I'm just going to move your face because it's over my text. How did we do yesterday? Where was the waste? And how can we do it better today? When we commit to this, people must change. Responsibilities and behaviors change. Employees now play an integral role in solving problems. Leaders become coaches, building the problem-solving muscle of their teams. Everyone is committed to working as a team to identify and solve problems. So in HR, we deal with people systems. We have policies, systems, and practices that surround how employees are recruited, hired, onboarded, trained, managed, compensated, reviewed, communicated with, and opportunities for promotion. All of the components of a Lean transformation, as in tandem with all of these things with HR has to support these expected new behaviors of a Lean transformation. So I like to say that HR professionals are change agents. You know, we play a very integral role in changing, change management efforts and continuous improvement initiatives in an organization. The thing is employee perceptions and attitudes change, and HR is positioned to pulse the organization at every juncture in a Lean transformation. We can provide feedback to leaders regarding the current state of the culture versus where they're expected to be. Your resident HR, we're relationship builders. We form effective relationships with employees, frontline managers, and leadership. And we make it our goal to understand what the organization's priorities are and what the operations priorities are. So when I think of those synergistic little things, it's honestly, HR is a true business partner in fostering a continuous improvement culture. We can have a true impact on employee engagement, and there's the real connection that people feel to, employee engagement, we define that as that's the real connection people feel to their work that results in higher levels of performance, commitment, and loyalty. So if we look at the people value stream on the picture, this encompasses all or most key processes within an employee's life cycle. When I say life cycle, that's from the time that they're hired to the time that they either decide to exit the company or retire from a company. So all of these policies, systems, and practices must be super closely examined to see if they enable or hinder the adoption of a team-based, collaborative problem-solving culture, which is Lean. All of these things have to be ongoing, and alignment of these things are crucial because they touch their employee touch points. So I just want to walk through the graphic a little bit because in my opinion and my experience, there can be so much waste in each of these processes. And I'm sure each of you on the call has either experienced or witnessed some within your employment history. So if we look at, when you attract people, we have the selection process in recruitment, we have promoting people, we have onboarding. How many of you have had to apply on an online database to submit your resume and just attach the resume, for then to get a notice that says you have to retype your resume into the system so that you're able to apply to the job. So a 30-second task then became 5 to 10 minutes, and guaranteed you're frustrated by that point, thinking, why couldn't I just send my resume to an email or to a representative? Or why does this system have so many redundancies? So when we think about human resources and just the very first touch point, even before an employee is hired, there's waste. If we move into engaging and we look at performance development and training, how many training courses have you been to in the past where you're thinking, gee, is this even related to my job? Why do I need to be here? Is this appropriate for my role to be here? Am I gonna get a golden nugget at the end of this training? The fact that there wasn't legwork being done to align the competencies of the roles to the particular training that was being done in the first place, that's waste. If we look at inspiring, when we look at performance management processes, how many times in the past have you filled out your annual performance review on a paper copy, for then you had to probably type it out afterwards, and then you have to email it and scan it to your manager, and then the manager then probably prints it out, makes a bunch of notes on it, and then probably types it out again, and then emails it. And then they do that process probably one more time or twice for iterations, just to make sure that they have the performance management piece really down pat, because it only happens annually, for then to print it out again, for it to get scanned in again into the file, to then be placed into an employee file, physical file, and employee digital file. That's waste. There's so much waste in these processes where when you think of lean manufacturing or building a car, of course that's obvious. You know, you're walking around a physical environment and you can see where there's been, you know, a little bit of garbage, or there's places where tools are kind of everywhere and they could be more organized. When you're thinking of knowledge work and you're thinking of how corporate systems work, it's a little bit more difficult. Trust me, it's more difficult, because Avel worked with our corporate team so closely, and in the organization, we were a knowledge work environment. So it was extremely interesting and also rewarding to see that you could have an impact and change in your work that also made you much more effective in your role as an HR professional. So again, if we look at career planning and succession planning, there are so many opportunities missed if there isn't proper competency structures built and people are running around, and you know, it's almost like you can view people running around like chickens with their heads cut off if you don't have proper procedures and you know, guidelines for your managers to fall back on. That's waste. So in terms of what I was able to experience while going through this particular transformation, again, I'm going to say very lucky and blessed, because in our corporate team, we had key members that I worked with very closely. So we were very lucky to have, I had a very close relationship with our marketing and communications manager, as well as our our chief performance officer. And I feel like in that realm, we formed a bit of a trifecta. And I'm sharing this story because if you could replicate this and build these relationships, I think they're crucial to a lean transformation and creating those synergies within HR and making it about people, creating people first. So we would have regular weekly, if not more, meetings on the fly, to ensure that the change management processes were, you know, current for what was going on with our staff. And I feel like, you know, we had this excellent ball game of of an operations mindset, a people mindset, and a communications mindset that was really nimble in being able to create practices within an organization that kept it fun and exciting, because lean transformations are hard. And I won't say that enough. As rewarding and excellent as everything was, to get to that point was a lot of work, and you needed a good team to lean back on. And to this day, we work very closely together among many other folks that played a wonderful role in creating such a great environment there. So what that did for us, because Avel even brought this up in our first few training sessions, was this is a knowledge work environment. We're going to work really hard to help you understand how this applies, the same as it would in a manufacturing environment, just as you're building a car or you're making transloaders, whatever. We'll make it work, and it'll be, you'll see the rewards, you'll see how it'll work. And I remember thinking, and I remember our corporate team just being like, well, we're so busy. We're already so busy. How are we going to fit this in? And I know those of you that are embarking on a lean journey, that's what you're thinking. I'm too busy. I don't know how to turn this lens on. The more we were able to see small changes every day, little wins every day, even if it was as simple as taking a look at your email system. My gosh, is there waste in email systems? So, and what I mean by that is, hey, I send the exact same email out every single week, at least 3 times a week. Same email. I'm going to retype it every time. Did you know there's a function that you could utilize where you just have a template and you do it all the time? So it's little things like that where you would feel excited. You'd be like, oh, that just shaved off 5 minutes of my time in, a day. Sure, 5 minutes seems like a small thing, but when you're trying to fit in a lot and you already have a busy schedule, those small wins are superb. So, HR and lean. Just to bring it back to this slide, when you're thinking about creating value in an organization as an HR professional, and you're so used to having a tactical mindset, hey, Zana, we need to hire somebody. Can we hire somebody? Cool. Hey, Zana, we got to fire somebody. Okay, we got to go down the termination process. Okay. Hey, we need a policy. Let's make a policy. We got to do all of these things. Okay. We need compensation review. Okay. That's tactical HR. That's the day-to-day stuff that we got to do. We got to do it. But when we look at HR strategy and how it aligns with all of the touch points that impact our people, there are so many of them, and not engaging your HR professional at the beginning of a lean transformation can be detrimental, because the people side, and I'll talk about it a lot, is so important, to running your organization, obviously. So let's talk a little bit more about the sparkle and what that looks like from a live to work and work to live perspective. So, because I'm going to talk a lot about engagement and culture and what that looks like too. So right now we're living in the buzzword of the Great Resignation. So I'm sure you've heard this phrase before. So this phrase was actually coined by Professor Anthony Klotz at Texas A&M. So he argues that we transition to the post-pandemic workplace. People would rather vacate their jobs than resume the old normal of slogging to the office every day. I get it. Because if you think about the last my gosh, we're probably going to say 24 months here pretty quick. We've had employees who have been burned out. They're expected to essentially manage their home, their work life, all in one spot and figure out how to do it without essentially going crazy. You know, there was homeschooling, there was full-time workers working at home together, husbands, wives. I'm pretty sure the employee family assistance programs of the world right now, I'm not going to say pretty sure, I'm certain they are overloaded. Mental health is acutely something that organizations are aware of right now, and as HR professionals are talking about, it is very evident that people are looking at work differently. They're looking, you know, how do I want to spend my life? Is this the way I want to do it? Do I want to be away from my children for, you know, 10 hours a day or more and then have to bring my work home? There's no lines. When you think about work and home life, those lines get so blurred. So without a system in play that you're able to apply in your regular life to set those boundaries, it can be very difficult. So I think bringing it back to Lean and how that impacted, you know, just from a personal story, that impacted me greatly. It allowed me to be able to slice and dice time in a way that I hadn't been able to do, you know, 10 years ago. The evidence is also mounting with the Great Resignation. So Microsoft research finds that 41% of the global workforce is weighing leaving their current employer this year. Monster also reports as many as 95% of workers are currently considering changing jobs. So I want to talk about the changing jobs piece, because I think that's also crucial to not only, you know, people's the work-life balance weighing. There's this, oopsies. Here we go. There's shift in how people are just viewing their current workplace. So with people thinking about quitting their jobs, how do we truly engage talent in a way that fosters productivity, family balance, fulfillment, individuality, and happiness? There's articles out there where there's these successful executives where they're like, you know, I'm super burnt out, but I don't feel fulfilled. And, you know, I like my job, I'm making great money, I feel successful, but I'm not making my purpose. I'm not feeling like I'm really doing anything that's making a difference or an impact in my work. And this happens all of the time, withstanding Great Resignation, but the pandemic has created this monicum of people questioning if this is what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So I think when I was thinking about this, one of the first models I remember learning back in my school days was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's very fitting to the positive changes I've witnessed over my career as it pertains to culture and Lean. And it gives a lot of clarity around how organizations can engage talent more effectively when Lean is integrated. So let's talk a little bit about Maslow and Lean. So this framework of Maslow's hierarchy is used to describe how humans intrinsically partake in behavioral motivation and is typically illustrated as a pyramid. So at the base of the pyramid are psychological needs. So things like shelter, food, and water. We physically need these things to survive. At the very top, you'll find your need for self-esteem and self-actualization. The idea is that humans' most basic needs to be met before they will be motivated to achieve higher level needs. So what does this all have to do with organizational culture and Lean anyways? It's a lot, actually. If the culture of your organization leaves you overworked and chronically tired, so that physiological need, and fearful for job security, which is safety, it's hard to think straight, much less unlock your full potential. And what is Lean about? Unlocking your full potential. Lean methods tend to encourage the satisfaction of each of the lower levels of the hierarchy so that employees can reach those higher levels of fulfillment and esteem. So lean and agile organizations are more likely to support practices that enable employees to live healthier. They're the ones that are like, hey, yeah, incorporate your healthy lifestyle, bike to work, make sure that you have your workout time in the morning before you come to the office. We want you to show up as your best self. They're encouraged to have more balanced lives with and outside the workplace. So helping to unlock higher levels of the hierarchy. Again, that self-actualization and esteem. So when you think, just need a little water. When you think about a lean organization and what their aim is as it relates to Maslow's hierarchy, if we look at physiological needs, lean organizations aim to provide an environment that supports physical and mental well-being. If you think about safety, lean organizations aim to encourage transparency, accountability, and results-oriented success measures to increase stability and maintain healthy morale among employees. Lean organizations aim to promote belonging. They promote the development of long-lived cross-functional teams where differences are valued and conflicts are handled in healthy and objective ways. Lean organizations aim to boost self-esteem. They provide opportunities for employees to learn, grow, and achieve their goals. With self-actualization, they create an environment that allows for personal fulfillment, creativity, innovation, and a little bit of choose your own adventure. If you've done your own A3 in the past, if you've had the pleasure of going through one of those pieces of paper and the many iterations that come along with them, that's choosing your own adventure. Trust me, it is an adventure. So I have a little personal story as it relates to this. I remember sitting through our first sessions of lean training, and there was a lot of buzz in the office. So people were both amazed that the company had invested so much time and money into it. And all the while, there were also those grumblers. Why do we need to do this? We're too busy. We already have to fit this into our busy schedule. What is this anyways? It was very philosophical in nature at first until it started impacting their daily work. And we started down the path of simple waste walks and kaizens. Until then, it was like a lot of, you either had, kind of those subcultures happening where people were either like pumped and just like there every step of the way, or they were like just not happy. And that's change. That's what change looks like in an organization. All of those things are okay, because I guarantee you, if you spend more time with the folks that are less likely to change, they're probably going to be your biggest champions. So over the course of the training, I wanted to talk about the fact that I seen a shift. So light bulbs really started to go off, some and many of the naysayers. So I remember feeling super lucky to bear witness to visible growth in the team's mind. People would just talk to me, or they'd talk to coworkers. It was just buzz in the office. So day to day, you could see that there was a new sense of autonomy and courage happening in our people's lives at work. They had the power to change things. The more they brought forth their ideas and management was engaged and listening, you could see they wanted to contribute more. So their self-esteem was growing. We had this structure where if there was an improvement that they wanted to do, they put it through our Lean committee, and then the Lean committee would bring up all of the Lean improvements for that particular period of time. And then we would sit down with, our executive team, and they would approve those, whatever ideas they were, if they made sense. And, they were attached to a green belt's A3, then they would go through an approval process of being able to, say if it costs money, does it make sense for the organization? We would vet the ideas and bring it back to the person. If their idea didn't necessarily make sense from a financial or organizational perspective, we would coach them through that. We would say, hey, that was an excellent idea. However, have you thought about it in this sense? We would then bring it back to the 5 whys a little bit more, dig a little bit deeper, and they still would go back and say, oh, okay, just need another iteration of what this idea might look like. So there was still sparks happening. And I think in the environments, throughout my career, I've been very blessed to work in organizations that have already fostered a strong sense of belonging. And when I say that, it's family-like environments, ones that I'm going to say this. So ones where you can feel like you could really wave your personal brand of freak flag proudly. And I say that with the utmost kindness, because if you could show up as yourself at work every day and bring great ideas, that's belonging, that's self-actualization, that's coming to work with purpose. And when you can see Lean coming in as a positive vehicle for change, it was in how people could really dig into their creativity and innovation at work. And it was a gift because at its core, Lean is about improving lives at work. And when I think again, back to the synergies of HR and Lean transformations, that's what we want, is to improve lives at work. So before we move into culture, I just want to say, imagine a culture where you're free to be you. Just free to be you, because you're awesome. So, this is my A3. So, when Abel first presented this to me, he said, "Okay, Zana, here's your A3 topic." And it was one word. And he says, your A3 topic is culture. And I swear, I probably looked at him like he had 16 heads. Like, I was like, okay, but what? So in his sensei fashion, he said, think about it and come back to me more. All right. Okay. Well, so I wrote down like so many words and I had so many questions that it was scary. And I will speak boldly and vulnerably today because that's who I am. But there were many other employees feeling the same way with their A3s, and they were scared and they were worried that they were going to get it wrong. And they were worried that it was this big, scary beast that they couldn't accomplish. But when they got through it and they worked through the mud and they did all of their interviewing and felt engaged in the process, that's where the sparkle really happened. So when we talk about culture, this has become my most treasured topic because, as you can see, I spent a great deal of time in the land of A3 development. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking, like, culture is such a buzzword, and it really is. You hear it all the time now. You hear it in, attracting people. It's in job descriptions. You hear it. Just look at your LinkedIn, and I bet you maybe that's just mine because that's the stuff I follow, but you see culture everywhere. And perhaps that's selective perception on my part, but I feel like now more than ever, it's on top of mind. See, but the thing is, when we look at culture, it means so many different things to different people. And that was the premise of my A3. So here's the question. What is the foundational culture of this organization, and how do we live this every day? So the problem is, this was my problem. Culture means different things to different people. And why I figured out that was a problem, like I literally I probably interviewed with 75% of our staff, just because it, like, my curious beast couldn't stop. I was like, why is this such so different for people? And it's because everybody experiences work differently. Everybody sees life differently. So if you give them a word like, how do you experience culture at work? Well, of course, it's going to come from their experience. So here's why this became super, super important, because aside from the data that I was the qualitative data that I was collecting from staff, if there's pain that's happening with a culture, there's terrible attrition. Your recruiting numbers are going to increase. Training numbers are going to increase. There's going to be misalignment. There's friction. There's not clear expectations. And the effectiveness of culture building activities, which I'll talk about, might be a moot point. So satisfaction will go down. So when we think about culture as a buzzword, I'm gonna say this. If you ask someone, what's your culture like in an office? I'll guarantee you this is what they'll say. Sometimes I like the office birthday celebrations. I love the wine Fridays. I love that time that we went on an outing. And I love that we have these annual, Christmas parties, or it's about the experiences that they have had. But here's the thing, not everybody appreciates those types of experiences. Other people may enjoy just coming to work, having great relationships at work, and then going home. And that's okay too, because there's a balance in all of that. There's also some staff that are like, you know what? I love it. I love going to all the social functions. That fills my cup. That might not be somebody's cup filler. We have introverts, we have extroverts, we have all different types of people in an organization where these types of things might not matter to everybody. So when we look at culture as something as we have a great culture because we do all of these fun things, it's not accurate. Culture is actually the shared values, attributes, and characteristics of an organization. It's literally how we collectively behave every day. It's how we talk to one another. It's how we honor our core values. It's what leaders and organizations model. It's simply just a matter of being. When you walk into an office and you see 5 people talking about their weekend on the water or around the water cooler, they're talking about their family. That's just being. They're just being themselves. When you walk into a boardroom, you see some contention, some tension in the heat and how, the leadership team is conversing with one another. That's their culture. It's all of the things that we just experience and perceive and take in every single day. So if we talk about the values, because they very closely, and I'm sure when you think about a value in an organization, you're like, yeah, it's just 5 words. They have descriptors. That's their values at an organization. Bet you 80% of the people couldn't even name them off. What are the values of the organization? But they're integral to creating and nurturing a company culture that makes sense for everybody and how they perceive work. So I'm going to play this out as an analogy about how values might play out in an organization. Because you can have someone that you might work with who is just downright rude. Like they don't like working with that person. They're mean. They're like snappy at everybody, but they get, I just about swore, is that allowed? They get stuff done. They work hard. But what does that say about a company's values? And I say this lightly because both teamwork and hard work are equally important, but one shouldn't be more important than the other. So if you continue to employ somebody who's just awful to everybody around them, but you tout that teamwork's so important to you and that teamwork is one of your highest priorities and values alongside hard work, what are you saying you value more? Is it the fact that it doesn't matter that somebody treats somebody so awful but because they meet their numbers and because they do all the things they're supposed to from a work basis? That's not valuing equally teamwork and equally hard work. Both of the things need to go hand in hand for a well-rounded person to truly align with the values that you're saying. So when we worked through the A3 of company culture and really digging into how you nourish that, we really found that values, again, are incredibly important. So the team I worked on were a part of a complete values redesign. So how that started as a part of an idea in this A3 was we deployed as a part of saying, okay, we're going to redesign our values. We deployed a multitude of staff surveys to determine what the staff truly valued and why. We had a list of specific questions that would drive home, what types of things they would value in their leaders, their environment, and came back with a bunch of data. Data, man, I get nerdy. So when we got to see all of the information come back, it was incredible to dig deep into what the values of the organization were, what they were actually playing out with versus just picking a random assortment of words and phrases that we might think fit the organization. If you're a startup organization or a smaller organization, I 100% wholeheartedly believe you need to put pen to paper with your staff and figure out what those values are with them. This is an employee-led exercise because they're the ones alongside you. They're the ones experiencing what those values truly are versus just plastering a bunch of words on the walls and aligning to those, said values. Because decisions need to be made based on inherent values. We, as an organization, we need to align to them because what we say and do matters. It does show up in a company's culture of if you're operating in opposition to the actual values of the organization. It causes mistrust. So this project, this creating our values, was the tip of the iceberg as it related to our overall cultural transformation in tandem with an ongoing continuous improvement initiatives within our Lean transformation. So with the help of talented team members, we had engaged some wonderful consultants as well. We were able to meet many of the goals within the proposed future state of solving, though culture means different things to different people. Nourishing culture, company culture though, it meant getting uncomfortable. There was a lot of conversations and iterations of what this looked like. It was months of work over the course of a year. And it meant finding space to grow. So anytime you experience growth, it still hurts. There's still pain in it, even though you're seeing rewards. So, again, people were busy too. Employees were in a constant state of running and at times in many different directions. So nourishing our culture meant that we needed to find a way back to a unified vision and purpose together. So if you look at my fabulous artwork, you could see, I tried to draw a person that was running fast out the door, frivolously typing on the computer, lots of talking, but no action, people going in different directions, work-life balance being an issue and the scales tipping, And, you know, that fear, that's a fear turtle. Looks like a brain, but it is a fear turtle. So, you know, being opposed to kind of share ideas and everything. And then, you know, not a succession plan. So the proposed future state was sparkle. And what I mean by sparkle is people feeling confident in being able to bring up ideas that matter to them to make an impact at an organization in a state of steady change. Lots of great jobs, lots of, you know, typical culture, exciting, fun things like pizza parties, bringing passion to work, family, work-life balance, everybody going in the same direction, which was largely influenced by recreating the values, is creating that unified vision. And, you know, we always said, yeah, it's an open door, but truly practicing an open door policy, and creating standards around our HR processes and our people processes, clarity and expectations in their role. We did another redesign of the performance management system, and included brand new competencies for every single role to create more clarity and expectations. Those are all HR and Lean led synergies within the process. There was more emphasis on staff safety and creating more processes around that as well. So through the gap analysis, of course, we had tons of different ways that we were able to reach the future state based on this, but and action items. So the wonderful thing about this is we really took quantifiable action around where our current culture was living, and we used a similar platform to engagement data that focused on culture quotients. So alongside a consultant that we had used, we focused on 5 key drivers. So I'm sure you've heard of engagement surveys. We also did culture quotient surveys. So in that, there's 5 key drivers that we measured quarterly that also had a bunch of questions that we surveyed. And all of these surveys were also, again, in tandem with our Lean transformation. And then we'd present the data to staff and commit to improving. So if there were areas that needed to be moved, the dial needed to be moved within culture, we would commit that. We would Kaizen it with a lot of different touch points. And what I mean by that is when we get the data, we'd present it to all staff and we'd make sure that we had the opportunity to show them strengths and areas for improvement and what we were going to do about the areas of improvement and a timeline to fix it. So it showed that we're collecting the data matters, and this is what we're going to do about it. So when it comes to nourishing company culture, there are so many moving parts. And alongside, you know, the culture quotient surveys, we also dove deep into engagement. So I'm going to talk a little bit about engagement next. The pulse of engagement. So, as I'm sure you're beginning to see, again, many moving parts in creating a high performance culture. The formula is still people-based. I honestly feel that we need a healthy balance of leader involvement, collaboration, and a true sense of belonging in a team setting. It'll always encourage folks to go back to that hierarchy of needs and understand from a larger scale view if that's actually happening in an organization. I say people, HR professionals. Throughout my career, so I get nerdy about it, but this is very important to me. I have always strived to collect strong data. Leaders need data to make decisions. When it comes to HR practices, it can feel, a better word for this, fluffy. And you have to, at times, take it out. I mean, when it comes to talent in an organization, it's no different. You need the data to support the decisions and the strategies that you're going to make as an HR department. So as much as I love a good philosophical conversation, you know, we can talk about books and we can talk about all the HR strategy in the world. Data is an important tool in an HR professional's role. So alongside building relationships and personally checking in with staff regularly, you can also deploy those anonymous check-ins in a more scalable version, which is obviously your engagement surveys. Engagement has a pulse that can be read. And in my opinion, engagement should be a top priority in all workplaces. Strong engagement of your workforce can result in lower absenteeism, lower turnover, higher safety consciousness, and overall satisfaction at work. This is just to name a few. It goes without saying that the latter can cost an organization a lot of time and money. So as it relates to engagement and satisfaction and loyalty, so engagement relates to satisfaction and loyalty, but it also explains unique information related to how individuals perceive their daily work life within their work groups. So again, if we think back to Lean, our core goal is to improve our lives at work. Engagement needs to be measured. This is how HR professionals and organizations do check, adjust, and follow up. So we think back to applying our lean thinking. We have to do that on a regular basis, a continual basis. It doesn't stop. So it's one way that we can effectively align HR programs and practices with lean management. So I'm sure you've heard of them, but one of my go-to sources is the Gallup Q12. I have been working with their format for many years, and it's simple to digest. So it only has those 12 questions. And Gallup has identified 12 foundational elements of employee engagement that predict high team performance. Of course, there are many, 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 many different surveys that you can use in the business world that make sense for your organization, but this is just my favorite. So I believe they work for measuring performance because they describe the fundamental psychological requirements for unleashing human potential. Again, very lean thinking. They've been studying engagement for over 75 years and utilizing a third party. And to me, if you use a third party to collect the data, you get far more honest, candid, unbarred feedback from employees versus trying to manage it yourself. So when I talk about the pulse of engagement, though, because you could do these surveys, you could get the data and stick it in a drawer, and that's not good. An important thing to mention is that you can't stop at the data collection. Employees deserve to know what's being done with the data and how it's going to be used. That's where the transparency piece comes. That's where continuous improvement mindset lives. As much as surveys are super fun, they could also lack action. Corporate teams need to communicate not only the company's strengths on the survey results, but also the areas of improvement, like I said before. So it must be an ongoing commitment. So if communication, for instance, were an area for improvement in the results, managers should be equipped with the right tools to be able to communicate more effectively with their teams. Otherwise, the data is just that. It's just data. I'm not going to do anything with it. High trust organizations have a two-way street. If a company wants to improve, they must follow through with actions that support areas of development alongside celebratory strengths. It's all fun and dandy to put the balloons up and hurrah, hurrah, let's have a party because we did all these great things, when there's these looming things in the background that need to be addressed. All of those things need to be addressed. So as it relates to a lean transformation, engagement obviously will have ebbs and flows. So if we bring it back to transformation and what happens in that period of time, people might be experiencing different things as the transformation progresses. So you need a pulse on that activity to manage change appropriately. This is where the involvement of an HR professional or your department allows the organization to be nimbler in how they respond to employees' reactions within the process, because they're going to change and they're going to have ebbs and flows throughout the entire process. And it's super important to have them be aware that you're willing to be in the mud with them, because change isn't easy for everybody. Again, you might have those folks that are right at the top of the champion page and ready to take on everything. That's awesome. You need all sorts of people to keep the gears going, but there's also going to be those ones that are hesitant and scared. And being able to be open and transparent with engagement results and keeping a pulse on where people truly are living, you can see a story over time. You can see how things change throughout the transformation. And that's where the HR and Lean synergies really show rewards, is when you see those stories of how the people in the workforce are growing and learning and adapting to new ways and methodologies of an organization. The data really shows a real impact of how people are responding to change. So with regular communication to employees about how things are improving on a larger scale, because obviously this could apply to small or medium or large businesses, it also shows that regardless of scalability, the fact that you're willing to be transparent and open about the results and do something about the changes that might need to occur if there were improvements, it shows that the organization cares about how these new changes that they're implementing with Lean are truly impacting the daily lives at work. It shows that you're in the trenches with them and beside them in a Lean transformation. So bringing it back to the pulse of engagement has to be measured. You can get data that has true, you can measure it, and it links back to the alignment of where your transformation is. And then that brings us, how are we doing for time?
We're right at time right now, so we're going a little bit into overtime.
Ooh, okay, one last slide.
That's a great topic, so I don't mind going into overtime, and we'll go into a shootout.
Okay, perfect. And here I thought I wouldn't be able to fill 40 minutes. All right. People, productivity, and profit. Let's be serious. We all want to make money. And I do not want to tread lightly on all these beautiful little things that happen within these transformations, but profit isn't a purpose. It's a result. So purpose is the reason we do the thing that makes the profit. I am a huge fan of Simon Sinek, and he sends me these lovely, the company sends me these quotes in my inbox every day. And this one was so timely, I had to put it in there. So with this particular topic, I thought it was, I just wanted to address a few questions that might pique somebody's interest in how you tie people, productivity, and profit together. So the act of measuring is the act of measuring annual engagement just a check the box activity? Are you just throwing the results in the drawer at the end of your survey and that's it? Are we truly emphasizing elements that engage employees and drive results? So we're going to talk a little bit about what those are. What common practices do highly engaged organizations share? And when you use engagement as a business strategy, does it yield clear and better results? So certainly, enthusiastic and energetic employees feel better about their work and workplace, but engagement in achieving the right culture formula is not determined by an abstract feeling. Measuring workers' contentment or happiness levels, as well as catering to their wants, often fails to achieve the underlying goal of employee engagement, which is improved business outcomes. Engagement surveys can't just be an annual check the box activity. It needs to be a fundamental consideration in an organization's people strategy. So Gallup states that organizations have more success with engagement and improved business performance when they treat employees as stakeholders of their own future and the company's future. This means that focusing on concrete performance management activities such as clarifying work expectations, getting people what they need to do their work, so their tools, equipment, support, providing development, promoting positive coworker relationships. All of these things work hand in hand with a lean management system. All of these things within a lean management system drives clarifying work expectations, etc. Many employees who are not engaged, honestly, they just want a reason to be inspired. They're the show me group. They're the ones that need an extra push to perform at their best. So while positive feelings such as happiness, that's byproducts of engagement, but they shouldn't be confused with primary outcomes. The primary emphasis should be on elements that engage workers and drive results, actual results in an organization. Again, I'll say this because I swear I tout it all the time. Clarity of expectations. It's the simplest form of trying to engage your workforce. So giving them the opportunity to also do what they do best. Have them work in opportunities that build their self-esteem, that ignite their purpose again, that really tie them to their work, where they're feeling like they're making a difference. This is where the premise of this great resignation is coming from. People need to ignite their purpose at work and build those self-esteem and come back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We also need ongoing developmental discussions and timely feedback for people. If we want people to be inspired and to do their best work, we need to have honest and transparent conversations with them about where they're at. And then also showing them that their ideas and opinions matter. You know, that the stuff that they bring to the table deserves to be at the table, and that they have a voice and that they're heard. So creating a culture of engagement requires more than just completing an annual survey and then leaving managers on their own. We can't just hope that managers will learn something from the survey results that will change the way they manage. It requires an organization to take a close look at how critical engagement elements align with their performance development and human capital strategies. Engaging employees takes work and commitment. It's not, again, so is the act of measuring engagement an annual check the box activity? Absolutely not. And are we truly emphasizing elements that engage employees and drive results? Take a look at the human capital strategies. Are you doing all of the things that create clarity and that give them opportunity and showing them that they matter too? Gallup also says that highly engaged organizations share common philosophies and practices. So what are they? What common practices do highly engaged organizations share? Well, they know creating a culture of engagement starts at the top. Their leaders are aligned in prioritizing engagement as a competitive strategic point of differentiation in the industry. They communicate openly and consistently. They place the utmost importance on using the right metrics and hiring and developing great managers and people. Highly engaged organizations also hold their managers accountable, not just for their team's measured engagement level, but also how it relates to their overall team's performance. They ensure their managers are engaging employees from the minute they start their first day at work. Onboarding processes, again, when I tie it back to lean transformations and HR synergies and how they work hand in hand in house, this is so important. Your onboarding processes need to be tight because it's super important to create that first impression that sets the stage for them. So literally from the first day at work, that means caring enough to have their computer ready, to have their supplies ready, to have someone welcome them into the organization, to make them feel like they're a part of a culture that's special, that they're ready to come and bring their purpose and ignite what they have inside of them at that workplace. Approaching engagement as a business strategy yields clear and better results. Why? Gallup conducted a study of studies to determine the relationship of engagement as measured by Gallup's employee engagement survey to business, work unit profitability, productivity, employee retention, and customer perception. So what they found was, quite simply, engaged employees produce better business outcomes than other employees do. This was across industries, company sizes, and nationalities, and in good economic times and bad. Business or work units that score in the top quartile of their organization in employee engagement have nearly double the odds of success based on a composite of financial, customer, retention, safety, quality, shrinkage, and absenteeism metrics. When compared with those in the bottom quartile, those at the 99th percentile have 4 times the success rate of those in the first percentile. So here's some data from Gallup. When compared to business units in the bottom quartile of engagement, those in the top quartile realize improvements in the following areas, among others. People show up and stay. Engaged employees make it a point to show up to work and do more work. Highly engaged business units realize a 41% reduction in absenteeism and a 17% increase in productivity. Engaged workers are also more likely to stay with their employers. In high turnover organization, high engaged business units achieve 24% less turnover. In low turnover organization, the gains are even more dramatic. So highly engaged business units achieve 59% less turnover. High turnover organization are those with more than 40% annualized turnover, and low turnover organization are those with 40% or lower annualized turnover. So the data is there. There's also better results within customer outcomes. Employees who are engaged consistently show up to work and have a greater commitment to quality and safety. Understandably, these employees also help their organizations improve customer relationships and obtain impressive organic growth. Highly engaged business units achieve a 10% increase in customer ratings and a 20% increase in sales. Likewise with profit. The previous outcomes collide to bring organizations increased profitability. So when you think of people actually showing up and staying and creating better customer outcomes, engaged employers are more present and productive to have increased profitability. They're more attuned to the needs of the customers, and they're more observant of processes, standards, and systems. So when taken together, the behaviors of highly engaged business units result in 21% greater profitability as an organization. So when you link this all back together with Lean and HR strategy, Lean is a vehicle in which you can influence higher productivity levels, but also inspire people to do their best work. It's about the continuous improvement of people's lives at work. So when coupled with a people strategy that includes the regular measurement and monitoring of engagement and culture factors, you can create real positive change and impact as an employer and for the people that work for your organization. So, lastly, HR has an important role in facilitating all of these strategies alongside a lean transformation. Obviously, throughout this presentation, I wholeheartedly believe that if you can engage your HR department as early as possible, if you're thinking to embark on a lean transformation journey, it can only go up from there. And well, folks, that's all for now. So let's move into a virtual high five.
High five. Great job, Zana. Again, I want to thank you from the community of practice for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. I really do appreciate it. We went a little bit over time, but you know, it's such a great topic, and it's not a topic that gets talked about a lot. So I didn't mind, you know, pulling the executive decision and going into like a little bit of overtime and shootout. I didn't want to sit there and stop people and hearing the story that you had to share, because it was an important one. I will say this, one of my key takeaways was, they always say with Toyota, people first, car second. And no one really kind of gets it so well that, yeah, we can increase productivity by, making improvements to our processes. But what about when we align HR systems and increase the capability of our people? How does that improve productivity? It's like tenfold, a hundredfold. It's unmeasurable. It's like just goes to infinity. And so that's what I really liked about what you were talking about in your subject, Zana, was that, tapping into the capability of our people, aligning training with the competencies, and even to just even looking at the waste even within the HR process itself, how that can unlock a lot of capability and performance that can't be tapped into in just a regular continuous improvement or lean transformation event, right? So thank you, Zana, for sharing that. That's my one key takeaway.
Thank
Before we
you.
go into question and answer, I will say this, our next Lean Coffee is going to be November 19th, so please save your date for that. Again, it'll be the same thing, about 9 till 10-ish, like we always do. And a recording of this session will also be posted to our YouTube channel. Go check that out. It's in the chat. As well, too, follow our LinkedIn page for future updates on Lean Coffee sessions. Again, that link is also in the chat, but if you wanted to, just Lean-YEG, we'll bring it up on LinkedIn. Okay, on that note, thank you again, Zana. And is there any questions from the group that you guys have for her before we let her go? Shannon says, thank you for the great presentation. Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Any last little tidbit knowledge you want to share with them before we clap hands? Zana?
No, I mean, thanks again, guys. It's truly been an honor to be able to speak on this topic, and I appreciate that you all came and had a coffee together. So cheers.
Cheers. Awesome. Okay, on that note, then, again, reminder, November 19th is our next one. Check the YouTube link for a copy of this recording. And again, thank you, Zana, for sharing this really cool topic that doesn't get talked about, leading HR and the synergies between it. And I hope to see all of you again in a month. And stay safe out there and have a good one. Bye, everyone.